Over the next few days, I'll be riding with a mate. We'll leave the bustling urban chaos of Sydney behind and head into the remote rural region of New South Wales. We will pass through the gateway to the Australian desert, explore wilderness of Aussie Outback, riding big miles and camping next to our bikes, visit the original Mad Max film set, and finally reach Broken Hill, the true gateway to no man's land. At least that was the plan. In the last episode, we've covered over 500 kilometers on the first day, leaving the city behind and reaching the heart of central New South Wales. Nixon went down. A crash in the sand snapped his gear shifter rod. We scrambled to find a place to camp in the last light. Now the future of our trip depends on whether we can fix his bike or this journey ends before it truly begins.
Good morning. It was very cold last night. Checking the temperature right now because the sun hasn't fully up yet, and it feels like 5. It was extremely cold. I have all my clothes on, but we made it through the night.
It was a beautiful lakeside campsite, and easily one of the best free spots I've stayed at. We were so lucky to find it at last minute. It was time to pack up and try to fix Nixon's bike. We had 2 clear goals today: fix Nixon's bike quickly, then prepare ourselves for the long ride across the desert to our campsite at Lake Mungo. Before setting off, I took one last look of the lake, enjoyed a moment of calm before back on the road. However, we were already behind schedule. We didn't reach our planned campsite last night. This morning repairs also meant a late start. Time wasn't on our side. If we were to have any hope of crossing the right desert and reaching the shelter before nightfall, everything had to go exactly to plan. The clock had started. The motorcycle shop in Condobolin was our best and only hope, being the only one within a 300-kilometer radius.
It's open.
Amazingly, it was open in Easter Saturday.
Good morning. I'm very well.
So we leave the bike there in the shop, and we're gonna grab some coffee. I'm gonna try to weld the linkage together. They don't have a spare part, but it's pretty amazing that we can actually find a place, someone to actually fix it. This is one of the best scenario that we can find from the trouble he had yesterday afternoon.
We found an open cafe and enjoyed an amazing brunch.
It's actually one of the best brekkie burger I had for a very long time. The hash brown was especially very crunchy. Good. Well, small town can do very good hash brown and good coffee.
We top up our fuel bladders. After Houston, there will be no more fuel stop to Mungo. There will be an over 400-kilometer range. With our bike fully loaded, the stock 17-liter tanks wouldn't make it.
Got the bladder secured. Have 6 liter here and almost 4 liter with Nixon. Got water inside. It's roughly 300k to the Lake Mungo, so everything has to be prepared before we get into National Park.
We went back to the shop to check on Don's progress.
It's made up of sleeve, steel sleeve, and we're going to braze it over the top, try to make it strong.
The crash bar that almost ended the trip.
Get in trouble next time, spare one on that bike.
What a legend. Before we left Condobolin, the local recommended that we check out their quirky roadside attraction. It was very strange, but somehow fitting for this Outback journey. Back on the Silver Road, we bypassed the planted dirt road just to make up the lost time. We passed massive barns, an open field with harvest cottons, a dust tornado swirling in the distance. The road was long but smooth. Finally, we've arrived at Houston. Tucked away in western New South Wales, Houston is a threshold between more populated eastern region and the vast open landscape of the Australian Outback. This is where the comfort of the noon fades and the real adventure begins. We filled up the bike again and prepared for the real off-road adventure. It's roughly 2:30 right now, and it's another 3.5 hours to ride. Probably gonna arrive after dark today, but just fingers crossed, like we don't hit any sand and giving trouble to Nixon on the way to there. I'm pretty loaded up, pretty heavy. I can feel the actual weight on the back of my bike. It's gonna be challenging. Should be okay. I was being way too optimistic. We got back on the road. From Houston, we had 280 kilometers of gravel to cross before reaching Lake Mungo. On Google Map, it's one straight line into the national park. Although I don't know what the road conditions are like. According to my research, it should be manageable, mostly gravel with some corrugation. Finally entering the red zone, a real Outback country. Nixon seems to be handling it fine. His suspension was well tuned for the bumps, although I did notice some wobbling at the rear. In hindsight, it was probably a sign that he had too much weight at the back. I saw some loosened section off the side, so I rode where the tire marks at, as the surface was more solid there. But I didn't stop to tell Nixon. If I had done so, perhaps what happened next could have been avoided. I saw Nixon's bike lying on the ground facing the wrong way. This can't be good.
你人怎么样？
没事，对不起，对不起。
痛吗？
啊？
痛吗？
没有，没事。
这个上面断了。
嗯。
你可以把头盔先。
对，先拿下，不好意思哈。
Shit, this is the big one. 1、2、3。OK。
可以吗？东西 damage 吗
？Hard to tell.
有 damage 吗？哦，这个还好。
你的 upper crash bar sort of did his job, but again, it bent it, pushed the panel inside. This is getting bent so easily. Every time you have a crash, you will make more damage to the bike.
The side panel was bent and interfering with the steering, so I got out my tool and started trimming it down. I asked him to stay in the shade while I salvaged the bike. The Nixon kept asking what happened, and he seems confused.
我走神了，我完全不记得刚才发生2025吧。对。
Okay, which month?
我们现在是应该是 Easter。
我们要现在去哪里的？
我们往那个 我知道现在是 Easter holiday，
Right.
我们现在往那个，然后我们现在
It's okay. It's okay. Take your time.
Maybe he's in shock, but I fear he might have hit his head and suffered a mild concussion.
刚才到底发生了什么事情啊？
A car is coming toward us. I flag down the driver for help.
How's it going?
Hello.
Where are you heading?
Broken Hill. Well, we're heading Mungo.
Mungo National Park, yes. I think he's getting there. But I'm a little bit worried.
Yeah, well, it's like this till you get to my school. Which
Alex is the local farmer around here.
Well, you know,
We all thought it was probably just a bump on the head for him.
Basically wobbling around in the soft bit all the way from up there. Trying to find his car though.
When Nixon fell, his car door intercom flew off and it was never seen again. Alex even searched with a shovel, but had no luck.
Is it very expensive?
400-500.
After an hour, we got back on our bikes.
Okay.
We thanked Alex and continued our journey. I recalculate our time. The late start and this delay meant we were way behind schedule. Given the road condition and Nixon's situation, we couldn't speed up to make up the time either. It's likely the rest of the road will be the same as we're riding right now. Can we make it to Lake Mungo today at this pace? I led the way, directing Nixon towards the safer section of the track. But this road had an occasional pothole filled with dust that you couldn't see until it was too late. I passed one without issue, but then I looked at Nixon, who was following me in the same line. I ran back to check on him.
I think this is beyond my skill. I'm so sorry.
Don't say sorry.
No, I am. This is a bit too much for me. I tried. I really tried.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Lifting the bike was harder this time. We had to try several times. I definitely feel the weight of the luggage at the bike.
Okay. Good.
We need to take a breather and examine the situation.
Probably finished a third of the trip when we're basically in the middle of nowhere. Nixon already fell out from his bike twice, all on the soft sand. His confidence is greatly impacted. We certainly won't be able to make to Lake Mungo today.
Nixon's second fall wasn't as severe as the first. He was fine, but he lost his confidence in his ability to ride off-road. The road condition is very unpredictable, and at this time of day, we just don't have much energy left for both of us. It seems the Aussie Outback has already beaten us on the second day.
Oh, we're quickly losing daylight. We'll try to ride out to the Seal Road and head to the nearest town. We'll go very slow just for him. Now I'm not feeling so well myself. I don't know. Could be because of the heat, dehydration. But yeah, feel pretty exhausted. I don't know if we're gonna make it. It's dark now.
But no matter how tired I was, I knew I had to stay positive for both of us. I need to keep a clear head and let us out of this place.
靠有问题吗？
Bike is okay.
Huh?
Let's go before the sun go down.
Let's go.
Okay.
We considered camping on the roadside, but without any tree or shelter from the wind and with no access to water, it would be very dangerous. And we still faced the same problem the following day, so we pushed on. riding more slowly than ever before. It's actually harder to go slow in this kind of sand. Momentum helps to keep the bike upright. I lead the way, stopping to wait for Nixon to catch up.
Now it's becoming a survival situation.
I watch the sunset before my eyes. Even in that moment of exhaustion and frustration, the beauty of the Outback shines through.
It's dark anyway, so may as well just enjoy it.
But here comes another trouble.
What the fuck is that? Okay.
My dashboard lit up
right.
with the engine warning light and the coolant temperature warning light flashing.
That's not good. There's nothing in it.
I worried my radiator has been damaged.
It doesn't look good.
I couldn't find any leaks.
This is probably just overflow. 我的车可能是 overheat 了，因为太慢了。我可能会稍微往前走快一点，让它 cool off. I don't know what that is.
There's nothing I can do about it right now. I decided to ride a bit faster to test my theory. I rode ahead in bursts, then shut the bike off and waited for Nixon to catch up. Then I sprinted off again. I can only see about 20 meters ahead. Everything else was swallowed by darkness. I saw my first kangaroo that night. This is a real risk for riding motorcycle after dark. Another sandy section. I guided Nixon through using my torch.
You're saying that it says everything's back to normal. Everything's good now.
The plan worked. The engine lights stay off.
I think this is still road.
Then finally, we saw tarmac. A sweet, smooth tarmac.
From tarmac.
I felt so relieved. At least we made back to the main road. We are one step closer to safety.
We made it.
We also had phone reception again. We started calling every motel and the caravan park within range. Everything was closed. Finally, someone answered. A place in Ivanhoe had one room left. We took it.
50k away. Okay, let's go.
Knowing a warm bed and a hot shower were waiting for us, our spirits lifted. My bike headlights was terrible, so I managed to attach a torch to my helmet.
I love this setup.
We rode at 50k per hour. I constantly scanning the side of the road for animals. I sounded the horn repeatedly, hoping it would scare anything off the road.
Shit. Okay, the horn worked.
Those cattle were completely invisible in the dark.
The black cattle, you can't say nothing. You can't see them.
And kangaroos darting across the road. This one even tripped in front of us.
Come on. Come on.
To make the matter worse, I had to ride with my visor up because I had only brought a tinted visor for this trip, assuming we wouldn't be riding after dark at all. I couldn't be more wrong about that. And for the remaining of the trip, I will painfully be reminded all the time. At last, the lights of Ivanhoe appeared. We arrived at Mrs. Kendall's accommodation. The porch light was on, the gate was open. After everything we had been through, it felt like a warm hug. The house was old, but clean and well equipped. I almost feel bad about bringing in all the red dust. We were safe. But what now? Can we salvage this adventure? That would be a question for tomorrow. In the next episode, the journey continues deeper into the desert. I ride alone across endless red sands. I arrive at the highlight of the trip, explore the legendary Mad Max film set, and I chase the final light of a golden desert sunset, but at the cost of missing my riding buddies and my accommodation for the night.